Various bulletins report that in the last 24 hours, Hurricane Henry has gained even more strength, reaching Category 2, battering the entire river coastline of the east and advancing toward Anvil, where it is expected to make landfall soon. Residents of coastal cities, especially those in Anvil, receive urgent alerts to leave the region immediately. The young Dakota calls her usual restaurant in an attempt to order food, but is informed that the place is closing due to the violence of the storm. Trembling with fear due to her now phobia, she forces herself to leave the house. The sound of sirens crosses the street and accelerates her heart. When she decides to go back, she almost bumps into a neighbor, who looks at her with concern and asks if she is okay, commenting that he has not seen her outside since her mother's death. Then he suggests that she evacuate with his family, but Dakota refuses. In another part of the city, Kelly watches her older brother named Roni dive into the water while the younger one, Will, encourages him with enthusiasm. The moment of fun ends when the adoptive father, Billy Olson, appears irritated and scolds them for being under the rain, saying that if they get sick, he will be the one paying the medical bills. Kelly retorts, insinuating that he would never take them to a real doctor. Billy tells her to repeat that out loud, but the girl falls silent. Nearby, at the McKay meatpacking plant, Lisa, 9 months pregnant, runs to the car and gets in quickly. Her co-worker Bob recommends that she drive carefully, and she responds with a smile, wishing the same to him. During the call, Lisa's mother brings up again the subject of her move from New York to Anvil because of her fiancé, who abandoned her after discovering the pregnancy. Tired of the conversation, Lisa asks to stop talking about him. The mother then asks if she has reconsidered having a water birth at the hospital like her sister did. Clearly impatient, Lisa replies that she has not decided yet. Then the mother asks why she has not left the city yet, and Lisa explains that her boss forced her to show up at work, although she assures that she intends to leave soon. The mother, increasingly apprehensive, warns that, according to the news, the interstate highways are already closed due to flooding. Meanwhile, the marine biologist, Dr. Dale Edwards, listens attentively to the coverage about the approaching hurricane. His colleague Brian asks how bad it could get. Dale replies that the situation will be severe, noting that marine life south of Bermuda is already migrating north trying to escape. Brian wants to know if he managed to place trackers on all the bull sharks, but Dale denies it, explaining that their number is increasing too much because of the storm. At that moment, Greg, the one responsible for the harbor, informs that the hurricane may even reach a hypothetical Category 6. Dale immediately calls his niece. Dakota answers on the first ring. He asks if she has any way to leave the city, and if not, offers to pick her up personally. Even so, Dakota insists on staying in the house. Dale warns her that the storm is about to hit Anvil and that the residents may not withstand it, possibly leaving her swimming inside her own bedroom. Dakota downplays the severity, joking that it might even be fun, and states that the news always exaggerates. Dale softens his tone, saying that he understands her suffering and that he also misses her mother, but hiding at home will not make the pain disappear. Dakota laughs and mocks, saying that he is still bad at this caring business. He plays along, admits that he is still learning, and promises to pick her up as soon as possible. In the car, Billy continues verbally attacking the siblings for having gone out without permission, calls both of them pests, and threatens to return them to the adoption system if they do not behave. Looking out the window, Roni notices people leaving the city and asks if they should also go. Billy dismisses the idea, arrogantly stating that it is nothing more than a little wind and rain. On television, an anchor reports that Hurricane Henry has intensified even more and has now reached Category 5. Dakota connects her phone and watches an old video in which she plays with her mother while her father filmed. Meanwhile, Billy takes the siblings back home. Curious, Keepley asks what would happen if the water rose to the point of breaking the windows. Billy responds only that the glass is reinforced. Then he goes down to the basement, where he greets his wife Rachel, saying that he caught those little pests swimming near the creek chasing a snake. Rachel tells him to calm down and reminds him that they are paid to take care of the children. At that moment, Keepley appears saying that they are hungry. Billy, upon hearing the mention of steaks, reacts aggressively and says that it is none of her business. Rachel throws the girl a package of bread, and Billy warns that she must never go down there again. As he leaves the boat, Dale is approached by a local reporter named Joe, who wants to hear his opinion about the shark attack that occurred earlier. Surprised, Dale asks what incident he is talking about. Joe explains that a couple in Myrtle Beach was attacked by a great white shark, and witnesses swear they saw two animals. Dale replies that great white sharks do not usually hunt in groups and states that the description makes much more sense if they are bull sharks. In another part of the city, Lisa tries to ask for help, but the area around is completely empty. She gets into the car exactly when her mother calls again, but the call drops. Trying to calm herself, Dakota turns on the radio. A reporter warns that residents who decided to stay in the city should write their names on their arms with a permanent marker so that the bodies can be identified after the storm passes. Moments later, the power abruptly goes out. Soon after, the levee breaks and seawater invades the city violently. Lisa drives through heavy rain and crosses paths with Bob, who tells her to go back, warning that trees are falling in that direction. But when both hear the roar of advancing water, Bob changes his mind and tells her to move forward and seek higher ground. Lisa tries to push the car through branches but cannot. Bob continues, but seconds later the flood reaches him. Dakota watches from the window in shock as the water level rises rapidly. At Billy's house, the siblings watch the advancing water and try to warn him. Billy insists that it is nothing serious. Rachel says they need to leave immediately. Roni suggests using the pickup truck since the vehicle has a snorkel. Rachel calls the idea stupid, but Billy stops and admits that the boy might be right. In the streets, everything begins to be swallowed by the flood. Lisa's car is carried by the current until it gets stuck in a large branch, leaving her trapped. The truck that Bob drives hits a statue and breaks apart, spreading fish bait into the water, and it is carried toward the sea. From the window, Dakota sees a car stuck on the branch nearby. Close by, two men in a boat row toward their own truck when they hear the desperate scream of a woman. One of them dives and swims to Lisa's car, trying to calm her while promising to get her out. Then he asks his companion to get a cutter from the truck, but suddenly he is pulled underwater. The other man calls for his friend without getting a response. He tells Lisa that he will look for him, but she panics and begs him not to go. Watching everything from inside the house, Dakota screams that there are sharks. Lisa immediately understands and starts screaming for the man to run. He then witnesses his friend becoming prey to a shark. Hearing the commotion, Bob tries to force himself out of the destroyed truck, but he is also attacked and dragged down. Lisa watches helplessly as the man in front of her is killed. On the boat, Dale watches the news announcing that Highway 17 is completely flooded. Realizing that the road leads toward Annville, he looks at the laptop and concludes that the water should not have reached that far unless the levee had failed. Brian asks how they will reach the city. Dale decides to ask Joe for help, promising to grant any footage he wants as long as they take him as close as possible to Annville. At Billy's house, the siblings watch as the adoptive parents enter the garage. Moments later, they notice a shark swimming in the water. While Billy looks for the pickup truck keys, a shark attacks him by surprise. Rachel screams as he is dragged under. Billy briefly reappears on the surface, but then Rachel is also pulled into the water. The children scream and beg Billy not to abandon them, but he ignores them and runs to the garage, trying to reach the pickup and escape alone. Before he manages to get in, the shark attacks again and drags him away. Shaken, Kelly looks at Ronnie and asks if that means they will get new adoptive parents. Rachel, still alive for a few moments, screams for help, but soon is torn apart and taken down. Dakota desperately tries to call for help, while Lisa continues screaming from inside the nearly submerged car. Dakota says she is looking for help, but Lisa panics and says the water is rising too fast. Dakota points out that she cannot just swim there because sharks are everywhere and have already torn apart two men. Struggling to breathe, Lisa reveals that she is pregnant and insists that she will not let her child die before its first breath. Dakota breaks down for a second, trembling on the verge of tears, but composes herself and says she will help her. Running to the kitchen, she grabs a knife and climbs again to go toward Lisa and help her, even if it forces her to face her fear. She pauses for a moment, breathing with difficulty and clearly terrified, but Lisa encourages her, saying she is doing very well. Dakota leaves the house, slips and falls into the water, but manages to climb onto the car. From there, she jumps to a nearby roof, while sharks circle below. Gathering courage, she goes back into the water and climbs onto the branch where Lisa's car is stuck. With trembling hands, she starts cutting the branches. Finally, she manages to free it, and the two return inside the house. Lisa thanks her. Meanwhile, Brian observes that Nellie is not far from Dakota's house. Confused, Joe asks what Nellie is. Dale explains that it is a pregnant great white shark they have been monitoring for 3 years. Joe smiles, realizing that he might get incredible footage. Suddenly, the van stops. They realize that the roads ahead have been completely washed away and covered by water. At Billy's house, Ronnie suggests closing the door to prevent sharks from entering. Kelly offers to do it. She carefully climbs onto the counter and tries to reach the door, but when she tries to close it, the sharks force their way in, making her lose balance. Ronnie runs and manages to save her. At Dakota's house, she gives a towel to Lisa. The pregnant woman asks if she lives alone, and Dakota confirms. When asked about her parents, Dakota admits in a low voice that her father died years ago and that her mother passed away a few months earlier. Lisa says she is sorry for the loss. Then she asks if there is access to the roof. Dakota says yes. Lisa explains that they need to improvise a distress signal so rescuers know that there are people alive inside. Suddenly, she feels a strong contraction. Dakota gathers some curtains, climbs up and sets a help message on the roof before returning inside the house. Lisa then asks Dakota to check how much the baby has already emerged to estimate how much time remains until birth. Even embarrassed, Dakota agrees. When Lisa lifts the cloth, Dakota widens her eyes. Alarmed, Lisa asks if everything is okay. Dakota replies that she can see the baby's head emerging about 5 to 7 centimeters. Lisa exhales and admits that the child will come much earlier than expected, which is bad because the house may not last much longer. When night falls, Brian informs Dale that the signal is gone. Dale tells Joe to take only the essentials because from there on, they will continue by boat. Joe hesitates and asks if that can be considered safe. He himself jokes that a Category 5 hurricane with sharks loose certainly does not fit that definition. Then he asks how they will navigate without technology. At Billy's house, Ronnie tells his siblings that they need to reach the roof because the water keeps rising. Before that, however, they need to find something to distract the sharks. Kelly mentions the stakes in the basement, and Ronnie agrees they can serve. Will hesitates, remembering that Billy never allowed them to go down there. Ronnie does not care. At that moment, Billy emerges from the water, injured without one of his hands, and asks the teenagers for help. Outside, the rain worsens. Dakota comments to Lisa that she saw the boat of the two men earlier, but it is far from the house. At that moment, another contraction hits Lisa. Dakota becomes tense. Between pains, Lisa talks to the baby and begs it to wait a little longer because it is not safe to be born yet. Dakota looks at the rising water and offers to get the boat, but Lisa reminds her that the water is infested with sharks. Thinking quickly, Dakota recalls something her uncle taught her. Vibrations can mimic distress signals emitted by injured fish. Since he is a marine biologist, she trusts the idea. Then she gathers all vibrating devices to use them as distraction. Lisa asks if there are pain medications, and Dakota throws a bottle to her. Then she places the devices in separate plastic bags and throws them into the water. Lisa thanks her, and Dakota leaves. Back at Billy's house, the man asks if Rachel managed to survive, and the children answer no. Ronnie then confronts him, accusing him of trying to escape alone in the pickup. Billy invents that he was going to get help, but Ronnie makes it clear that he does not believe it. Billy tells him to stop talking like that. Ronnie corrects him, saying that his name is Ronnie and not Boy. Billy then orders him to go get help. The two argue, and Ronnie points out that sharks are circling everywhere. Billy dismisses the danger, saying that sharks do not like children, that there must be something in their smell, just like dogs do not eat their own feces. Ronnie immediately counters, remembering that the neighbor's dog clearly does. Irritated, Billy tells him to go already. Will notices the adoption assistance check and comments that it is a lot of money. Roni, incredulous, reveals the hypocrisy of the situation. Billy lives well, eats steak, while they survive on dry bread. Billy pretends softness and says he loves both, but soon drops the act and threatens to use his other arm to force Roni to leave. Before he goes further, Kelly kicks Billy into the water. In seconds, a shark attacks him and devours him. Kelly tells Roni to run to the basement while the animals are distracted. Roni dives and manages to grab the steak. He sees weapons nearby, but they are locked. Turning to leave, his shirt gets caught on a hook. He frees himself, grabs a box, and returns upstairs just in time. Meanwhile, Dakota's house continues to sink. Outside, she swims toward the drifting boat. Along the way, she sees a shark biting one of the vibrating devices thrown into the water. She keeps going as fast as she can, while the animals begin attacking the fake baits. When it seems that one of them will finally go for her, they all swim away quickly as if frightened. Seconds later, Dakota looks down and understands why. A massive great white shark glides beneath her body. In panic, she climbs onto the boat and closes her eyes, overwhelmed by the shock of having escaped death by so little. Further ahead, Dale's group slowly approaches Anvil. Joe asks why he chose to study sharks. Dale says that he grew up on the banks of the Zambezi River, where the most feared animal was not another than the hippopotamus, intelligent, fast, and extremely territorial. He remembers that one day, while looking for crayfish in the river, a hippopotamus charged at him. At the moment it was about to attack, it was surprised by two bull sharks. Dale says that in the eyes of that hippopotamus, he saw something he had never seen before: fear. It was at that moment that his fascination with sharks began. Joe then asks if he has discovered anything that bull sharks fear. Dale answers that they tend to avoid larger sharks, and that certain electric currents can also disorient them. Suddenly, Brian shouts that the signal is back. When they check the data, they realize that the waters around Anvil are filled with sharks. At dawn, Dakota wakes up frightened on the boat and sees that her house is almost completely submerged. She grabs the fishing harpoon and starts rowing. Inside the house, Lisa panics, but forces herself to breathe calmly and puts on music to stabilize herself. At Billy's house, Roni opens the box he brought. He admits that he could not get the gun, but brought something else from the basement. Inside, the three find sticks of dynamite. Thinking quickly, they attach the stake to the dynamite and throw everything into the water, hoping that the sharks will bite the bait, but nothing happens. Then Will comments something he saw in a documentary. Vibrations attract sharks. The three start producing vibrations in the water. Soon the animals approach. They run towards safety, but Roni's shirt gets caught again. Even so, he manages to free himself in time. Seconds later, the dynamite explodes and kills the sharks, leaving the siblings happy and safe. At the same time, Dakota's house finally collapses under the pressure of the flood. Lisa is forced to swim up and ends up giving birth right there in the water. Screaming in pain, she lifts the newborn above the surface and tries to calm him gently. The sharks begin to circle around her. Thinking quickly, Lisa places the baby on a floating box, grabs a sharp piece of wood and uses it to fend off the animals. Dakota shouts that she is arriving. As she approaches, she notices a shark coming from behind Lisa and fires the fishing harpoon. When she finally reaches the woman, she takes the baby into her arms. However, a shark collides with the boat and destabilizes Dakota. At that exact moment, Dale appears and throws into the water a device that emits electric current, driving the sharks away. Even so, one of them still charges directly at Dakota and Lisa. Luckily and surprisingly, the large great white shark attacks the enemy and devours it. Dale acts quickly and pulls both into the boat. Relieved, Dakota hugs her uncle. Lisa asks for a phone, and Joe hands his to her. She calls her mother and shows the newborn baby. Dale tells Dakota that her mother would be very proud of her, and the young woman smiles. The siblings decide to leave Anvil and head to Florida. A few days later, Greg observes the formation of another hurricane, a new Category 5 storm advancing again toward the Atlantic coast, which will bring more chaos and panic.